Hello and welcome to Geek Chic, created for you because intelligent conversation never goes out of style. This is the home for business brain candy. On Geek Chic, we invite a subject matter expert in to give us their experience, their knowledge, and a very different view of a subject that could have really significant impact to your business. This podcast is brought to you from Sales Geek Essex in partnership with DMB Films, the home for professional podcast filming. Links to all of this will be in our About session. So welcome to Geek Chic, created for you because intelligent conversation never goes out of style. Home of business brain candy, and this episode is a celebration of cerebral sweetness all around relationships in business. And for my relationship guru, my absolute go-to, she is just brilliant brain candy. I just can't tell you enough. And what she does within businesses and in relationships, it just blows my mind. She's an absolute go-to. She's an absolute inspiration. Staff Whisperer is all around communication and reparation to avoid confrontation, stagnation and litigation. Tabitha specialises in empowering small business owners to replicate their genius in their businesses, reducing reliance on them as an owner and developing loyal and effective teams. Wow, what a huge thing that you do.
It is.
So tell me about your journey to now. What's brought you to this space? This space.
So, in essence of time and keeping it short. So, my background's in HR. Did HR in lots of different industries, from multiple thousands of staff down to micro teams. I've done training. I've also I co-run an IT recruitment business. So I understand the complexities of HR issues sitting with your co-worker, you know, on a Friday at the pub and on a Monday morning being in a performance management meeting. And dealing with that can be really challenging. And then I retrained as a coach 13 years ago, and I've been doing women's empowerment coach, relationship coaching, intimate relationship coaching, and business coaching. So everything centres around relationships. Everything I've ever done in HR, in training, in my coaching has all been about people and how we relate to each other and how to get the best from people.
What an amazing route to take. I mean, the Japanese talk about ikagi, which is the thing that you're passionate about, the thing that people will pay for, the things that are important and all of that sort of stuff. And you've really found your profound space of happiness in the passion that you have for people, and that just oozes out of you. And I guess that's the reason why I'm all about the whys behind the whys make you wise, and you are absolute brain candy for me. And we swap information and talk about these things in depth over all kinds of cups of teas and things, but and cake. Cake is very, very important. It's like you don't get to where we are today without eating cake.
Exactly.
It's important.
That's the secret.
It's a thing for souls. So, thank you for that, and I am so excited for this conversation.
Me too.
Because it's so good to talk about these things. So, business is all about people and relationships, right? Everything about we do. Most companies will say they have a relationship style business. It's all around our people. We cannot build businesses without having other people around us. We can be somebody who's a lifestyle freelancer, we can do all of that, but to be able to scale what it is that we do, we cannot do alone, not unless, we've turned into Dolly the sheep and all of a sudden we can clone ourselves, which is maybe something for the future.
Yeah, wouldn't that be magic?
But not now. So let's start right at the beginning, because I think this is really important, and you and I both have come from recruitment style backgrounds and things like that, so getting the right people through the door. But what is it, as a staff whisperer, what is it that we want? What is it the staff want? What do our recruits want? What do the people who join us in this business journey, what do we want?
Well, we're all motivated differently. You know, that I think there is a uniqueness to everybody. However, what is commonly the same is wanting to feel valued, and it's the same in an intimate relationship to being a customer, to being an employee. It's the same thing. It's wanting to be seen, it's wanting to be heard, it's wanting to be valued, it's wanting to be recognised. And when you think about, Tony Robbins talks about our 4 needs as human beings, which is a need for certainty. So, you know, if you're going into a job, you want to know you're going to get paid on time, you want to know what your role includes, you want to have that certainty, but you also want variety, you want uncertainty, you want a bit of spice, you want a different project, you want to do different things. You also want significance, you want to feel important, whether it's in your role or in your life. And you want connection. We want love. We want to feel like there's a connection between what we're doing with a higher purpose or what we're doing for ourselves. And then if you go to the next layers, which is about contribution and growth, and ultimately if you can come from a place of contributing as a human being and growing as a human being, all those other 4 will be satisfied. So ultimately it is about how do you get all of that in your business.
So that's quite a lot to get your head around as a business owner. So you're a business owner, you're doing quite well, you're starting to grow your business, and now all of a sudden you want to bring somebody else in. And actually, as a whole, we don't think about all of those things that you've just spoken about. We're running around like headless chickens going, oh my God, I need to recruit. I am not, there's no work-life balance. There never is when you start a business, right? There's no work-life balance. I need to bring other people in. I need to attract, that attraction piece, certainty. You go and join a small business. Is this business going to survive? Is this going to be a short term? Are they not going to, there's a big piece about, how do small businesses recruit? And actually the way they usually recruit is friends, family,
prior relationships.
Relationships. Now, that's a bit of a minefield, right?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I wouldn't particularly want to blur the lines. I have worked with my best friend. It can work, but it definitely has another level of complexity. There's even more attachment. If you think about, if something goes wrong, how much more difficult is that conversation going to be if you are then friends with them and having to go down the pub, or your family and you're having to go to your weddings and your parties together? It just becomes that much more difficult. So for me, it's about finding people, like when you talked about small business, what's going to, I think, attract the right people is your vision. Because people need to buy into that vision. They'll almost do anything for you and with you if your vision is strong enough, and if you can capture someone's imagination through that, and they can see a pathway. Some people don't need that. Some people are different. They're happy, they're big picture people, and they're happy to go along with it. Other people need a bit more detail depending on what your profile preferences are. And it's just, again, understanding who you need, because the thing is, you don't generally recruit 6 people at once if you're a one-man band.
No.
You might start with your first, but you might outsource some work first. Then you might decide to employ your first person, which, by the way, is like the scariest thing you can do, is recruiting your first person.
Going from 1 to 2 is the biggest hurdle.
Scary.
It is massively, because you've not only got the responsibility for your family, you have the responsibility for another family as well as having to juggle with that extra cash flow issue, or I now need to do X, Y, Z. Sometimes it works because it's like, I've got too much money, too much work, I need to kind of do that. Again, you kind of go on that outsourcing, then you bring somebody in.
And it's understanding your business and your model and where you want it to go. Because for me, it's about mapping out where do you want your business to be in 5 years and what resource do you need. And then you work it backwards. Start with the end in mind. Stephen Covey, is where do I want it to be? How do I work backwards? And then that will inform you about who's the right person now. And to me, it's about, as a business owner, either making yourself redundant or carving out your ideal role. I had a client who had a videography business, and he ended up wanting to be chief nobbler. And what that meant was he just he just loved networking. He was the business development person.
So it's like, that's always wanted to be a CEO of his own.
So for him, his primary role was BDM. Okay, so what's all the other roles and functions in the business need to be recruited for? Do you know what I mean? So it depends, again, what the business owner wants. Do they want a business that works without them, that they can maybe sell at some point? Or do they want a business that just means they're carving out their perfect role for them?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not recruiting, it's not always necessarily recruiting like for like. I mean, I know some businesses who have just recruited a whole load of people like them. But then you have a very one-sided, one-dimensional type thing.
It's the halo effect. People recruit in their own image.
Ah, talk to me about that.
Yeah, so it's really common that it's like, oh, I like you, we've got rapport, this must be the perfect person. They are just like me and I'm awesome and they're going to be awesome.
Because they want to do more of themselves.
Absolutely,
like copy. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Whereas actually it's looking at, well, what does the role need? And again, that's why I like using disc profiling or wealth dynamics, because, you know, what is the bit you've got missing and where can you find someone that complements you and can fill those gaps? If you're a big picture person, you need a detail person.
Yeah.
You know, if you're a people person, you need someone who's maybe more results, you know, so you need to find people that will match you and complement you rather than be the same as you. You have the same values. I think recruit on values.
Do you know what? The same thing gets repeated in every single. There's already, you know, we're three episodes in, and I'm already seeing so many like parallels and the same conversations, and it is about, you know, it is about vision and purpose and passion and all of those things. And it's really interesting you say about disc profiling, because we're like big on disc profiling and really understanding the dynamics and the culture of business and the management styles, the communication styles.
Yeah.
Just supremely important as leaders. But when it comes to disc profiling, and you and I both know, yes, you're getting people who are not like you. They might be diametrically opposed to you.
Yeah.
But therein lies a problem, because that can lead itself into toxicity. So if you've got somebody who might have the same values and is absolutely bought into the values and the vision, but they're diametrically opposed when it comes to the way you communicate that, the way that you behave, the way you respond. And when you've got those high Ds and those high S's, where you've got those high I's and those high C's, it can be carnage, right?
Yeah, 100%. And again, this comes back to, I love Stephen Covey, you know, understand before being understood. So, you know, I remember going in years ago into Standard & Poor's in London, and we did this big Dale Carnegie thing, and we got all of the staff, must have been about 100 staff members, into all of their profile types, and they're all discussing like what annoys them about people in the workplace and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, when they started to understand, actually, I'm not doing it because I'm a beep, I'm doing it because I'm a high detail person, I'm doing it because I'm a big picture person. I don't process the same, because we take it personally, we make it mean it's something to do with us. It's like, oh, they're not listening to me, you know, because they don't care. They're not listening to me because, you know, they think they're better than me. They're not, you know, we tell ourselves stories, and it's those stories that create the resentment and the toxicity. Whereas if they go, actually, this is how I'm best to communicate, it's how I can get the best out of that person. And it doesn't mean it's not still frustrating, it is, but you don't buy into this, because it's the story that causes the emotional charge.
Yes, absolutely.
If we can get rid of the story and just kind of see it for what it is.
Yeah.
Like, and it's always, you almost laugh at it. I mean, I do a lot of masculine and feminine in relationships, and you know, it's like when you realise masculine's modal, and it's not because they're not listening, or feminine's diffuse. You know, we sort of go, oh yeah, it's still a bit irritating, but I get it now. He or she's not doing it just to be annoying. Actually, that's part of their modality.
Absolutely, and like I say, we run huge courses on disc profiling and getting all that done, because it gives you a way to be able to relate to yourself, for other people to relate to you. And when we sit and work in our workshops and they go, oh yeah, you do that, and all of a sudden it's diffused, isn't it? All of a sudden it's not about
it's not
you
personal.
do this and I do, you know, and you do that and you're this because of that. All of a sudden you go, yeah, okay. And it's, you know, it's that uncomfortable giggle. It's that, I do that level of accountability and recognition. And all of a sudden, it is about that huge diffusion piece, right? Which is, like you can see the air and the feel and the energy in the room change when you have those kinds of workshops and systems.
It's like a light bulb moment.
Yeah.
I did a retreat a couple of years ago with a small business. And again, I got them all to get into their different disc profiles. And I said, right, you're going on holiday. You know, you've got 5 minutes, and then you're going to come back and present as the high Ds had about 5 things on their list. They finished before anybody else. The high Is didn't quite get to their list. They told each other so many stories. The S's had, and then the C's had like everything down to corn plasters and every kind of emergency thing. And again, it was like showing, actually, we need all of them.
Yes.
It's not about one being better than the other. It's about understanding your value and how valuable you are in that team. And when you understand it and you know that you're important, back to that significance.
Yeah.
We know we're important, because it's common for high Ds
Don't look at me like that.
No.
I know where you're going with this.
Again, it's quite common in businesses that the high D will be maybe more the business owner or the MD, and maybe the high S's is like, oh, they're just fluffy people, blah, 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 blah. But actually, you really need those people to create the stability in the team and do all the things that you're not doing, and vice versa. You're the driver.
They make the best leaders. They're the servant leaders, the people who care about empowering other people. Yes, you're right. I mean, I'm extraordinarily, I feel like I'm making a confession. I'm like very, very high D, very high I, secondly high I. So my D is very high, my I is behind. But actually the people who make incredible, wholehearted servant leaders are the S's. They really are. People who've done their work, in looking at detail and all the rest of the stuff. So it's like you say, we're more likely to take risks, see high picture, see high level stuff.
And you need that. You need it. You need all of it.
Yeah,
you need all
cut through
profiles. Obviously we're not all just one anyway, but you can get the combination of all 4 profiles. Winner.
I think most people, am I right in saying most people are about just quite a high level of people are just 2. Some are 3, but it's actually quite rare to kind of be well balanced in all 4.
Yeah.
I always go, no, well, they don't know who they are. It's complete lies, but but when you kind of own that, and you can see the way you can start taking accountability, and actually you can start going, yeah, you're a bit of a dick. and it, and I think and knowing that yourself and the other people, and just going, well, it's not you, it's just who you are, right? It's like as if we had, I don't know, we were autistic and we didn't read the room, or we couldn't have those, so we didn't understand, we couldn't actually work with those social cues, that people then start to understand, well, this is who they are, and it is about, and that must create huge connection. I mean, we're all
well, it's vulnerable,
hardwired.
isn't it? It's vulnerable. Another Brené Brown, love her.
Oh,
but it's having that vulnerability, but also the credibility and acceptance. It all comes down to, again, when I do the relationship stuff, it's like, actually, can you accept that person for who they are?
Yeah.
If you can't, there's a decision to be made.
Yeah, definitely. Gosh, how many girlfriend talks have I had around? Right, but this isn't a new thing, is it? It's not like we didn't know, she's that person's been showing you who they are all along, and you've been trying,
But it's the same with staff.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like, they've got potential. They may well have potential. If that hasn't come to fruition through training, support over a period of time, you've got to have those courageous conversations.
And it's that expectations. I always say that we are the creators of our own disappointment.
Yep.
Right?
100%.
Because we sit there and we say, and this is a big failing of mine, I sit there and go, I can see the potential in you. Because I'm all excited about empowering somebody else and, taking them on a journey, giving them an opportunity, all of this sort of stuff. And yet the contract hasn't been made, right? So I can't turn around to you. So I see as a hiring manager, I turn around to you and say, you've got all of this, you come on the journey. I think you're hearing and listening to what I'm saying. You're just hearing and seeing what you're saying, and that contract, so I haven't very clearly put down to you, this is what I want for you, this is what I expect of you. Is that what you want to do? You know, it's like having that bi-directional check-in and making sure that people are signing the same contract.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, that's, when I talk about communication, I always say, it's like you've got glasses, and, you know, we filter every bit of information that comes through this, like through our values, through our beliefs, through our past experiences. If you're a woman, where you are in your hormonal cycle, you know, there's so many variants that make up our glasses and the way in which we see the world, which is why in HR terms, if it isn't written down, it didn't happen. And sometimes having stuff in writing, although it might seem arbitrary or, it's just a detail person, it can be important, because sometimes you need to read it, you need to digest it, whether it is a contract, an email, a written agreement, because we can talk all day long about stuff, brilliant, but until you actually write it down, like, then it becomes real. Then we can really talk about that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I've been talking to some of the other guests about, you know, contracting, about, you know, having that true understanding between parties.
Yeah.
You know, whether that's something around continuous improvement or marketing or client supplier, you know, all of those sort of things. Do you use that kind of stuff? Is that a tool you use, the sort of contracting thing in the work you do, or is it more implied and spoken about?
It's both. So it's sort of, there's the formation piece. So whether that's if you're doing a workshop on values or culture in the business or performance or recognition or reward or whatever it is like, once you've got to the end of that, and the coaching in me is like, now we need accountability. Now you need to write down the actions. It doesn't have to be war and peace, but it's just having some bullet points. It's having something. Yeah. And I just believe, you know, I used to write our points of culture into our contract. I made it contractual.
Absolutely.
It wasn't just, this is a part of our culture. It was written in. I could discipline people on the back of, they didn't do what they said they were going to do, because that was one of our points of culture. Yeah. You know, but we created it together. It wasn't like management over here creating it and then staff having to eat it. It was a collaboration and and then people buy into it because they love it, because we're all accountable. It's not just, you know, I got called out on stuff. Yeah. It's uncomfortable when you're the manager, but it's good.
Yes. You need people. So there are very few people I have my real close friends, people who are brave enough and stupid enough to be my close friends, who will call me on my shit. And I'm not easy. I'm not easy to call out, but those people are wholehearted, courageous. I know that they love me, and it comes from a place of love. But it's tough to find those people and to know who they really are. And you know who they are. Yeah. They're the people that are there at 3 o'clock in the morning. They're people who will turn around and go, that wasn't your best moment. Yeah, who call you out with love. And that's huge. And to have that to create that in a work environment,
it's possible.
It definitely is possible, and I'm all about culture. Yeah. So this is why I love you so much, because we all need to kind of have those things, and to have somebody to kind of respond to, keep you on track, to guide you, to mentor you in these areas which maybe you're not the strongest in. And if you think most people who start businesses are high Ds,
yes.
They need some help, right?
Yeah.
They often need some help. So let's go to my next favourite thing in the whole world, which is around courageous conversations, because we are all hardwired for human connection, and this is something I bang on about all the time. And because of that, it dictates our behaviour. So human disconnection registers in the brain the same way as a physical injury. Yeah. So we avoid hurt, harm, embarrassment, blame, being humiliated. I can't even say the word. Being humiliated, and when things go awry, we need to be our vulnerable self, to be our wholehearted leader. We need to have those difficult conversations, those courageous. When people say difficult conversations, it's like
they're uncomfortable.
They're uncomfortable.
They're uncomfortable.
But you have to be, geeks are brave. It's one of our values, right?
Yeah.
You have to have those courageous conversations.
Yeah.
So what is it what happens when we don't have those courageous conversations?
It's a bit like an infection or a disease. It spreads.
Yeah.
It gets under the skin of things. So when there's unexpressed feelings, unexpressed questions, unexpressed things that you're not happy with, over a period of time, because what happens is when you think, oh, that's annoyed me, because you haven't expressed it, you continue to think about that thing that's annoyed you, and it grows legs, it grows feet, and then we add layers of story to it, and then something else, and then we start to believe that thing, and then of course, because our filter is we believe that person's that's what's going on, suddenly anything that person does is going to,
confirmation bias.
Confirmation,
right?
Absolutely. And so that can just feed, and then you've got one person who might be disgruntled, and then they'll be talking to someone, because obviously you want the connection, you want to get rapport.
Yeah.
So you'll be talking about to your best mate in the workplace, oh yeah, that's happening, blah, blah, blah. And suddenly they're spilling that poison, and it is poison, into that other person. And then it can go round. So very quickly, like you talk about having a bad apple, they're not bad people, by the way, but it's just because it's this unexpressed thing that's happened where things haven't been dealt with, or you find that you start behaving differently, you start doing things differently, and then you're in danger of not being equal, being unfair. Other people see that, and it just creates an absolute shitstorm. And
it is around. So Brené Brown does an awful lot of stuff around toxic connections, about the alliances, those toxic alliances, the alliances that we make. It's like the enemies of our friends. Yeah, they're not really our friends. They're just somebody that we've offloaded to, or we've spread this poison to. And it is like you can very, very quickly, people act out in so many toxic ways, and you can very, very quickly get to a very toxic culture.
Yeah, quickly, and then it becomes the norm, right? It just becomes normal, and then no one questions it, and then everyone starts leaving.
We all hate Sheila. She's absolute.
And actually, poor old Sheila's probably done like one thing that was misconstrued, and it's never been talked about, and suddenly she's become this person. And
the same with bosses. It's like we're sitting there going, we just want this done, and if you're Heidi, you're just like, just get it done, just get it done, just get it done.
Yeah.
And we're a little bit more command and control rather than servant leadership.
They're useless, that's a common,
Yeah,
or they're just
useless.
They're rubbish.
They're just lazy.
Rubbish.
Yeah, they're lazy, they're rubbish, performance, they don't take, it's not about not taking accountability, but it's that lack of, the fact of the matter is that they've lost the purpose and the passion and the vision, because you haven't continued that internal selling machine, that internal marketing machine, to make sure that your people know and understand where you are, what's happening with you. It's not about oversharing, but if you're going through tough times and you're taking it all on yourself because you don't want to worry anybody else, but it is about being vulnerable, going.
But it's also about the business creating the container for that.
Okay.
It's creating the structure for that. So again, like intimate relationships, I'd talk about every week. Make sure you have an opportunity to say what's gone well and what hasn't. Because again, it's just about expression. I think I mentioned about whiffle.
I love that. So the next thing is like, how can we do this? So you talked about whiffle earlier. So let's share that with the listeners.
One of the things that we used to do is, because we know that just the tiniest things can snowball.
Yes.
Yeah, just that little irritation that person didn't wash up their mug at the end of the night and everyone else does. Or that person always brings the skanky biscuits and everyone else brings the lovely biscuits. They eat all the good biscuits. It's just really, like, often it can be as simple as that, and suddenly that can escalate over time. So we had something called whiffle, which is what I feel like expressing. So on every team meeting once a week, we would go around, and it'd be like, and everyone had you can say you didn't have anything, but it's not like you had to come to the table. It was offered to you every time.
Yes.
And this is what I'm saying about creating the container. Because if you suddenly...
It's a usual thing rather
yeah,
than an intervention.
yeah, because otherwise, like, who's got a whiffle? No one's going to put their hand up. Whereas you go around, have you got a whiffle? What's your whiffle today? Oh, actually. But it could be like, I feel like expressing, because it's not always negative, actually.
Yeah.
It could have been, I feel like expressing, I'm having a really good day and I'm really pleased. It can be positive. It's not just negative.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, so
I
it's
like
not
that.
just, because we had magic moments as well, that was more the positive stuff. But whiffle was more for the, if there's a problem. But sometimes it might not be, or it might be just a thank you. But it's like, what do I feel like expressing? And the thing is, the other person, if they're complaining about the other person, there's a couple of things. Firstly, the other person's not allowed to respond immediately. So it gives them an opportunity to actually like not go straight into the response of defending themselves.
Yeah, because that's our automatic position,
Of course
right?
it is. And secondly, because we had something called above and below the line. So above the line is your OR. It's called OR bed. So OR, OAR, which is ownership, accountability, responsibility.
Okay.
And below the line is blame, excuse and denial.
Ooh.
And so very quickly you can go, well, is this person blaming? It's like, oh, well, I didn't come to work. Well, because this happened, that happened. Is that taking responsibility?
Yeah.
Actually, no, it isn't. I could have done this, I could have done that. And so we also taught people to communicate above the line.
Right.
So it's not just a bitching session. It's not like I can't just throw stuff at you. I have to go, well, where am I taking responsibility for the situation? Yes. This is what your behaviour, how that's affecting me. Yeah. And then the other person has an opportunity to say, well, actually, do you know what, I'm actually having a bad day. Or actually, do you know, I just am a bit lazy and I just thought you'd do it. Or whatever. Yeah. I didn't even realise. That's common. Like often, and having done a lot of stuff in HR around bullying, often the person doesn't even realise. They don't realise the impact their behaviour and what that's doing to someone else.
Because they're stuck in their own little
That's really
bubble.
common, because everybody's just in their own little world. Yeah. And they don't always appreciate maybe what they're doing or not doing, what impact that's having on someone else in the team. And just having those open conversations, it's like, oh, right, oh, God, you know, suddenly I'm aware of it.
Yeah. And it's when you're aware of it and then you don't change it. That's
yeah, and sometimes that can be a work in progress, but that's kind of the denial piece. It's often like people won't accept it, but then they wouldn't be in our team, because if they don't buy into the culture of Orbed, they're not right for us.
Fair enough. But that must be, gosh, that's being able to facilitate those kinds of conversations. And I do think, I think, you know, if you have it as something that's done on a regular basis, that is an outlet, that actually it becomes something that we know is coming.
Part of the culture.
It means that maybe we don't need to act out in the moment, because I'm going to sit and think about it and I'm going to take it as a whiffle. It's an opportunity to say something lovely as well. But how do you learn to facilitate something like that? I mean, yes, of course, we could bring in somebody like you, but usually people don't, right? Because they don't even start having the courageous conversations, let alone, you know, creating this whiffle culture. Whiffle makes it sound like tribbles, you know, like in Star Trek, these really cute little round fluffy balls that just, you know, completely disabled an entire spaceship. It's the same sort of thing. So this whiffle, you know, how do you learn to do that? Is that a thing? Is it a course? Is it something you teach?
No. I mean,
maybe you should.
Maybe I should. I don't even know where...
Whiffle training.
I don't think... It's just like what I feel like expressing, because that's what it stands for. And it is just about that expression. So the thing is, you can't just... This is what happens, right? Business owner reads a book, or they hear something, they go, I'm going to do that. They get their staff together, right, team, we're going to do whiffle. And there's no preamble, there's no setup, there's no... So, do you know what I mean? So whatever you implement, you've got to put a bit of thought behind it. So, you know, if you've already got problems in your team, the last thing you want to do is suddenly implement a whiffle next Monday. You know, it's going to be actually having sown the seeds.
By Tuesday, you won't have any staff.
Yeah, exactly.
They've all killed each other.
It's ironing out those conversations one-to-one, kind of. And again, it's just anything like that. It's like, I'm thinking about doing this. What does everyone think? Listen to their concerns. Listen, you know, and it might be you come up with something slightly different.
Yeah.
Who cares if it's whiffle? It can be whiffly or it can be anything. I don't care.
Waffly.
It's just creating something
Yeah.
that works for the people in the business, that gives them a structure to be able to express themselves on a regular basis without the fear of judgment and criticism and, you know, all the other stuff of the reason why we don't say how we really feel about things. And also because you're coming from that place of accountability and responsibility, you know, you will be pulled up on that. But it is a cultural thing, and it starts with the business leader.
Starts from the top. Every organisation is a reflection of the person on top, right?
Yeah.
Because we create it in our own image. You've got the halo effect,
Yeah.
which is something I've learned today. So all of this, you know, it's like you can very easily get into a dysfunctional, toxic culture.
Yeah.
And there are very few companies out there that don't have at least an element,
A pocket of it, potentially.
a pocket of it,
Yeah.
or a political person, or
Yeah.
an Iago, a protagonist. In protagonists are really, really useful in business because they are the change makers, but also they can very quickly become toxic if they feel devalued or, you know, the rest of the stuff. So I guess that comes to, you know, how do we stop that? I mean, investment. I mean, we see a huge lack of investment in all areas, the important areas of the business, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh yeah, that's a nice to have. Okay. You know, sales training. Nobody trains their salespeople. We pay them money so they should know what they're doing. You know, that kind of stuff. And then we're going to punish them to an inch of their life because we're not going to invest in them. You know, there's a real lack of investment in people, and that to me is insanity, because without your people, you don't have a business. Without having your people on board means your customers aren't treated in the right way. Without communicating, it doesn't actually work. So, what you know, from your point of view, what do you see? Why is it important to invest in these kinds of mechanisms and, you know, these kind of things?
Ultimately, people are your best asset, unless you're going to be on your own, in which case you don't need that.
Yeah.
You still actually need to understand people. But if you're growing a team in particular, you know, if you think about what you pay in salary,
Yes.
it will be your biggest overhead. Your cost of people is your biggest overhead. It just is. It can be a lot. And so why would you not make the best of it? It's like buying a Porsche but never servicing it. Do you know what I mean? It's like
or putting petrol in it.
Yeah.
Or oil.
It's the same. You just wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
When you use that analogy, you wouldn't do it.
No.
Yeah. Your people. And sometimes it's not even huge investment.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't need to be, which is why I tend to work with the small business owners that don't necessarily have massive budgets, because it is about understanding what once you've gone in there and you understand what they want and you've created some kind of system, whether it's reward, recognition, how to communicate, whatever the mechanisms are and the processes are in the business, once you've created that, it's rinse and repeat.
Yeah.
And everyone plugs into it. So in terms of just setting it up, it's not a massive cost.
Yeah.
And then in terms of actually investing in your people, yes, obviously there's training, there's all sorts of things you can do, but even little rewards like bringing in croissants on a Friday for breakfast, or there are little ways of recognising your staff that aren't going to cost you loads of money. I mean, yes, obviously you've got flexibility, it's a big one. Flexible working, it's become obviously since COVID even bigger, but you know, being able to spend time with people, their families, and you will get more out of people. Again,
we all worked harder when we were at home, right? We all worked harder. I've got this amazing friend who runs a really great PR company, PR and media and marketing, and she says, I mean, everybody has a clear idea of what they need to achieve in that week, and then if they've achieved all of those things by Thursday, they can have Friday off.
Yeah, it's results driven, and it should
high
be
performance, and because actually we waste a lot of our working week, and people are always looking at ways to increase performance.
Well, if you imagined every week you were going on holiday, you get a lot more done, wouldn't you? Because you do. Yeah. When you think, I'm going on holiday, how much more do you get done in that week than any other week? Because we'll use the space available.
Yes.
And so it's about it's just that reward, recognition, understanding what people want, understanding what their skill set is, and just working with that. And it's like you can't not invest in people. And also, if you don't, like retention, I know there's loads of statistics out there, but if you don't retain good people, it's not just the cost of recruitment. So you've got the lag time of them leaving.
Yeah.
You've got the time that you'll need to retrain someone else, even just understanding the company, let alone the skill of the job.
Well, it takes a year to get on track. Yeah. So you've got a whole year. Say if someone stays with you for 18 months and then for whatever reason they leave, it takes a whole year. It takes probably 6 months to understand a new sector, new this, that and the other, new product, new implementation, whatever. And then it takes another year to actually get to be able to, do the job with competence, unconscious competence. So you're losing a whole year. So it's like, hang on a minute. Say if you had a client, had an employee which was, I don't know, £30,000 a year, yeah, and then you've wasted all of that. Like you say, the lag time. It's just insane. So
it's a massive amount of money. Your cost to your bottom line by not investing in your people is crazy. When you really you can break it down into figures, lay it out black and white. It's scary. Yeah. So you think, oh, I don't want to spend 500 quid on that, or I don't want to spend. It's like, why would you not?
Yeah, you're going to waste like nearly. Yeah. I think we worked out when I was a headhunter. I think we were working with medium to high level people. We said even a specialist salesperson, it was a far few years ago, at £30,000. If you badly recruited them, and they left after, the cost of that person to the business was £60,000 in a year. That was on a base of 30,000. So you'd have all the lag time, the lead time, the management time, the training time, the car, the laptop, all of that sort of stuff. But if they left after 6 months because you didn't deliver or it wasn't the right thing, the cost of the business was nearer to £250,000. And you're just thinking, hang on a minute, like, this is everything to your business. Don't be, moaning about they're lazy or they're not engaged. It's like, why? What's the whys? And not, like you're saying, not investing £500, £1,000 for training, support, whatever it might be. Yeah, is absolutely insanity. The cost of not, and I tell everybody about the cost of not. Everybody's worrying about, my service costs this £1,000, and it's like, but what's the cost of them not having you? That's a huge thing. So what is the cost? What is the fallout of not investing, not rewarding, not recognising?
What, in actual figures?
No, just in like terms of what does it look like? How do you identify it? What does it?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, you can feel it. It is energetic. You walk into an office that's buzzing and everyone's getting on, feels good. You walk into an office where everyone's bitching behind everyone else's back. You can feel the difference. So I think there's an obvious energetic feeling.
And you can't recruit into a toxic culture, really.
No.
Unless they're toxic people themselves, right. And then they go, all right,
and then you find people will they won't be productive. They'll start taking time off. They'll start being sick because it's all manifested. Unresolved emotional issues will manifest physically. Yeah. So it's not that they're lying. They are actually sick a lot of the time, but it is caused because things aren't being dealt with. And so you just have a very unhappy, unproductive employee that, to be honest, you don't want in the business. But you can turn, I believe, not everybody, but I think you can turn a lot of people round.
Yeah. So I do this grid of different kinds of personality: A people, B people, C people, D people. These are people with the right values and the right performance. And A people have got the right values and they've got the right performance. B people have got the right values but they're not performing, so they might be in a different role. C people, wrong values but high performance. These are the toxic people. These are the sunflowers. These are the people that are usually sales managers, to be perfectly honest, and nothing grows below them. I've done it this way, I came up the hard way. And then there's D people, the people who that don't perform and don't have the right values. They are instant get rid of.
That's right.
But you need to invest in those A people and B people. The B people to change, find out what they want. And that is a really nice metric. It's like, where do these people sit?
Yeah.
Where are they? So, toxic cultures, right? I know we've said about we can feel it. You can walk into a space and you can feel it. How do we know? What are the red flags? What are the things we can kind of look out for and go, you know, you might get a feeling that things aren't quite right, or people aren't, you know, that people aren't listening to you, or...
Yeah, quite frankly, it'll show in your KPIs.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the performance of your business will decrease if toxicity is happening. It's also undercurrents, hearing complaints. You know, you're going to hear people complaining, people disappearing outside and whisper. Do you know what I mean? There are a lot of kind of telltale signs. And as I said, people being off sick, coming up with lots of excuses why things aren't working. They're blaming customers, blaming the tech, blaming whatever, you know, the Prime Minister, the government, doesn't matter. Everyone else's fault but not theirs. You know, and it's kind of called neg ferrets. You know, they're
what?
Neg ferrets.
Neg ferrets.
They're like vampires that just emotionally, you just have a conversation with them and you walk away and you think, why do I feel like I need a chocolate bar now? Because I feel drained.
The emotional vampires.
Yeah, and you know, so again, noticing those types of people in your organisation, and the smaller your organisation is, the more you're going to notice it. But that's where the courageous conversation comes in, because you go, I'm going to try and... Ignoring it will not make it go away. I'll just say that right now. Do not ignore that stuff. Yeah. You know, it is about coming into a room and just saying, I'm noticing this, looking at the behaviour. So no judgment, not about what you think or don't think, not about what you perceive, but the actual, this is what I've noticed is happening. What's going on for you? Yeah. How can I help?
That's leading. You know, that is one of the things which I coach my leaders and mentor my leaders in having those courageous conversations. I probably recommend Brené Brown's Dare to Lead to every single manager, high D especially, managers that are out there, about changing it from being a wholehearted leader, manager, you know, really kind of taking off that armour, because we're very good at putting on armour and just getting it done because we're under siege, and we're those kinds of people. So that's huge. So the red flags, that's all brilliant information. So what would be your top tips on how to start tackling, you know, the toxic cultures, the difficult conversations? If you can't have that, you know, because some people just aren't built, you know, they are very, very sensitive, you know, I can't have those conversations. I mean, that's a whole journey on itself, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and like I say, if you're in that position, Brené Brown will be able to help you give that feedback and all the rest of the stuff. She is incredible. Like, her leadership style, absolutely brilliant. Found it when we were in Agile, and have literally, it's changed my life. Yeah, it's changed every single one of my relationships. The way I have a relationship with myself and other people, you know, even my children like me a little bit more these days. But what would be your top tips on how to turn the ship around, apart from getting you on board and saying, Tabs, come in and wave your magic whiffle at my team? What would be your top tips?
The first thing is to get a mirror and look at it.
Oof. That's
because,
a tough one, right?
You know, ultimately you are co-creating that in some way. Yeah. And it's kind of looking at, okay, where can I take responsibility? Where can I take accountability? Maybe I didn't onboard well. Maybe I haven't been really clear about expectations. Maybe I haven't given the right training and support. Maybe I've ignored the signs. Maybe, you know, so whatever that is, we're intelligent people, and just look and go, okay, where can I feel empowered around this? Rather than it being that person's problem and they need to sort it out, actually, okay, where am I responsible? Yeah. And then going from that place. And for me, I do a lot of state management, which is managing your state, managing how you're feeling. So if you're annoyed and angry at a member of staff, do not go and have a courageous conversation.
Yeah, it is not the right time.
That will not go down well. You will co-create something really nasty. So it is about kind of centering yourself. And I talk a lot about love and fear. It's like coming from a place of love rather than fear. You know, fear of this happening, fear of confrontation, fear of them chucking their toys out the pram, fear of them leaving, fear of whatever might happen, whatever the fear is. Whereas actually it's like, I want to be okay, I want them to be okay, and I want my business to be okay. Yes. And then if you come from that mindset and that energy, and you rock up to that conversation with that person with this kind of like, I want to help, and I want to help that person get to the bottom of what's going on. And sometimes that can result in a really good conversation that is them exiting the business. Yeah. It's not all about keeping, but it's about both recognising where you are. And I think going back to the vulnerability, if you, like when I used to teach couples about conflict resolution, it's like, where can you take responsibility? What can you apologise for? Because if you go into any conversation and you go, I understand that maybe I haven't given you the support you needed. I understand maybe I haven't set my expectations really clearly. Because immediately they're going to relax.
It's a different
conversation. Because you're not going into, well, you did this and you did that. It's like, okay, this is where I take responsibility. And then it's like, what's going on for you? So just having a couple of key questions, managing your state, a couple of key questions, what's really going on for you? I've noticed this. Not like, you've been doing that, you've been doing this. Like, I've noticed this behaviour. I've noticed this is going on. Yeah. What's going on for you? Like, open question, what's going on for you? Now, they may or may not open up to you. Yeah. But if you are coming from a place of love,
and it has to be authentic.
It has to be authentic. It's not.
You can't fake this shit, right? You can't do that.
Which is why, if you're angry, go and talk to your best friend, your coach, your business partner, whoever it is. Have a good old rant to them. They tell you how amazing you are, and then, do you know what I mean? So it's because we do sometimes need that release. Yes. Because it's pent up and it's annoying and it's frustrating, especially when you're paying staff. And sometimes
it's a resentment. I paid you to do a job and you haven't done it. How many times have I heard that?
Yeah, it's hard. Right. It's hard. And when I used to do training, the thing I'd say is, have you been clear about what you expect and have you trained them? And if the answer's not yes to both of them, then you need to take responsibility for that.
Amazing. Thank you so much. We go to the really fun stuff, the stuff I like, the light-hearted end, because these can be quite a heavy conversation. So, who is your wisdom hero? Who's your go-to when you want to be inspired for kind of the real good stuff to take into your work?
There are a lot of people, but I would probably still go back to Tony Robbins.
The second person that said that. Yeah, it's a big one.
I've done the firewalk and I've met him, I've crewed for him, I've, had a lot of... Yeah, he picked me up.
I'm so cynical.
He's massive. Yeah, he literally picked me up and squeezed me. I was like a bit awestruck. I was like, oh my God. So, the biggest thing that he teaches is a triad, which is, if you want to change anything, it's change these three things. Change your state, your physiology, stand up straight, change your body, change your posture. Change your focus. What is it I'm focusing on? I'm focusing on that fact that employee is doing my head in and they're not doing what they said they're going to do and all those other things. Or am I focusing on the solution of how I can fix it? Focus what you say to yourself. What are you telling yourself?
Yeah, what's your language? In a conversation?
What are you saying to yourself?
Yeah, what's the story I'm telling myself?
Your state, your focus, and what you're telling yourself. And you change that. If you don't feel, your body's the best barometer. If you're not feeling good, you go, what's going on for me? And you change one or all three of those, your world will change.
I love that. And what is apart from you change those three things and, everything changes, what is the piece of wisdom that you've taken on that has kind of changed your world for you and that you pass on to other people? What's that one golden nugget that you can share with us?
Honestly, it's personal responsibility.
Amen.
Because when you are looking outside of yourself as everything else is a problem, you are disempowered. That to me is the ultimate disempowerment, because you've given that power to something or someone else. Whereas the minute you take responsibility, even though it might be a bitter pill to swallow, even though you might be like, oh, that's uncomfortable, but once you do, who's got the power to change it? You have.
Absolutely.
And for me, that's empowering. If that's what I do for myself, that's what I do for my clients. And if you're a business owner doing that and then helping your staff to do the same, you'll have an empowered workforce.
Amen. Like therein lies the holy grail of how to build a successful high performance business. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
I always love our conversations. We are, you know, sisters from another mother.
Yes.
And I love what you stand for and who you are. So thank you so much for joining.
Thank you.
Geek Chic today.
It's been great. Thank you.
Thank you for listening and watching our Geek Chic, our podcast created for you because intelligent conversation never goes out of style. Your chosen place for business brain candy. We hope you have enjoyed this conversation. Please remember to give us a thumbs up, a follow, a like, a share, subscribe, all of those things. Tell all of your friends, comment, give us feedback, and we hope you've enjoyed our little production. It is brought to you in conjunction with Sales Geek Essex and DMB Films, the home for professional podcast filming. This is Lisa from Sales Geek, wishing you all wisdom and wellness. Until next time.